people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this per tweet from Mike Coppinger. You may have heard yesterday, made a lot of headlines, made a lot of news, that an entity called Marv Nation won the rights to the WBC junior welterweight title fight between Regis Prograis and Joyce at yesterday's purse bid with a winning bid of $2.4 million. A source told ESPN TGB PBC was second with a bid of $1.2 million. That's essentially saying that the people at Marv Nation bid 2 times as much as the people at the PBC, which is peculiar,
strange
to say the least, because Marv Nation doesn't have a TV deal with anybody. Marv Nation is a small local outfit that we've mentioned in passing several times here on this channel. They do shows
out there in the West Coast, they do, and in South America.
They share a fighter, a champion in Costa Rica's own Yo Costa Valle. They share that fighter and co-promote her with Golden Boy Promotions.
They also seem to be in cahoots with Probellum, the fledgling promotional outfit that debuted in the market late last year.
One is left to wonder why a small local promotional outfit that doesn't have a network deal with any major broadcaster, why would they bid 2 times as much as an established outfit like the PBC? And
it's very strange, it is.
Marv Nation doesn't roll like that. You know, they're just not that kind of outfit, or at least they haven't been, not up until this point. They do small club shows. Fighters like Marisela Cornejo, Adelaida Ruiz, Yo Costa Valle, Naomi Valle.
No, up until this point, they are not the kind of outfit that puts on multi-million-dollar shows. So where'd they come up with the money for this one?
Or how do they intend to? With no major broadcast partner, no Fox deal, no Showtime deal, no ESPN deal, no DAZN deal.
You're staking $2.4 million of your own dollars to show this fight where?
On what channel? On what platform? Because you're staking $2.4 million. That's 2 times as much as the PBC was willing to pay for the fight. You're pricing the fight 2 times higher than they are. And you ain't got a network deal. They do.
How do you plan on making that money back?
The last thing I expected to hear in reference to Prograis-Zepada for the vacant WBC title is that the rights would end up going to a small local outfit like Marv Nation.
Inability to deliver this show in a timely fashion could result in Marv Nation defaulting and the rights to the show going to the PBC.
PBC's bid of $1.2 million was the second highest bid. It's also reported that Probellum themselves placed a bid for the fight. $1 million or a little over $1 million?
I read somewhere that Zenford Promotions also placed a bid for the fight.
But with the PBC placing the second highest bid, should Marv Nation fail to deliver this fight in a timely fashion, they will be found in default, and the rights would then go to TGB and PBC by default. Similar to what we saw between Triller and Matchroom, to where Triller won the rights for the Lopez versus Cambosos fight, but were unable to deliver the fight in a timely fashion, so the rights ended up going to Matchroom. That could, in theory, end up happening here between Marv Nation and the PBC should Marv Nation fail to deliver this fight.
Plan seems to be due to fight in either Las Vegas or Atlantic City.
No broadcast information has been made available at this time. Unless something changes, we're in the dark as far as what channel, what network, what platform will air this fight, since I reiterate, Marv Nation has no network deal that I'm aware of.
I don't know, maybe they plan on billing it as a moderately priced pay-per-view on Fight TV.
Maybe. The feeling is, where does a small local Southern California promotional outfit that mostly does club-level shows find $2.4 million? And even if they find it, wherever they found it,
right,
why would they stake it in a fight involving 2 fighters that they don't have under contract. Joyce-Zepada is a Zanford Promotions fighter. Regis Prograis, he's supposed to be with Probellum. Whatever the outcome of this fight is,
That doesn't change. Those two fighters, regardless of which one wins, are with different promoters.
why would Marv Nation want this thing, and why would they stake so much of their own money just to get the rights for this fight? Or is it even their own money? Did someone else give Marv Nation $2.4 million? Because I gotta tell you, Marv Nation, they're a well-to-do outfit, but they ain't the kind of outfit that puts on multi-million-dollar shows.
Is that Marv Nation's $2.4 million, or is it someone else's and they're using Marv Nation?
Using Marv Nation, this small Southern California outfit, as a decoy, a disguise, as to not draw attention to themselves. Is that Probellum's $2.4 million? Is it Golden Boy's? Since Marv Nation does have a relationship with those two other promotional outfits, both of which are bigger, comparatively bigger than Marv Nation. Where did Marv get the money?
Marv Nation shares a fighter with Golden Boy and Yo Costa Valle. Did they get the money from them?
They very recently did a show in South America with Probellum featuring Naomi Valle, Yo Costa Valle's younger sister. Did Probellum give them the money?
Did they give Marv Nation the money in order to be able to do a show in America whilst not drawing attention to themselves?
For those out there that feel that Probellum is just MTK Global by another name, the now defunct MTK Global that was co-founded by alleged international cartel king Daniel Kinahan.
There are those out there that feel that there's something that ain't right about that Probellum outfit, which is helmed by Dick Schaefer.
Are those out there who feel that behind the scenes, the guy who's really in control, the puppeteer, the puppet master, is actually Daniel Kinahan, and that's his outfit, though no formal connection has been officially made. And if the money did in fact come from Probellum, the money Marv Nation is putting up for this Regis Prograis versus Joyce-Zepada fight, well, then you might understand why Probellum wouldn't want to draw attention to themselves. They'll use Marv Nation to place the bid instead of placing it themselves, even though they allegedly did participate at the purse bid.
I read somewhere they bid like $1 million.
Although that, in and of itself, could be interpreted as a decoy bid, a dummy bid, if the money did in fact come from Probellum to Marv Nation in order to place the winning bid. $2.4 million for a fight like this is a particularly aggressive bid, because I don't actually know that the commercial value of this fight is $2.4 million. The way you put this fight out there somewhere in America and it brings you back $2.4 million. I don't know if this fight is worth that commercially. Tom Brown didn't seem to think so. He priced the fight at half that amount.
So this is curious to say the least.
I feel like we won't really get the answers we're looking for until broadcast information is made available. The broadcaster of this fight, if there is one, that will tell us where the money came from. If it ends up on DAZN, well then maybe the money came from Golden Boy, maybe it came from DAZN. If the broadcaster ends up being someone more obscure, like a Fight TV, FITE TV, well that leaves more to the imagination. We'll keep you posted.
The split they offered me, I thought was unfair. So we're coming to an agreement where he's going to unify, and I get to fight the winner, whoever that would be out of him and Vargas, and I get a fair split of the purse as well. So it's a no-brainer for me. Fight for 2 belts, 50% split.
The catch-22 with this deal, the deal that saw Lee Wood stepping aside, Leo Santa Cruz's mandatory challenger by way of the WBA.
The catch-22 is, well, you might not make it to the Leo Santa Cruz fight or the Ray Vargas fight if he beats him.
You might not. I don't know if Leo Santa Cruz and his team were privy to negotiations between Lee Wood and Mauricio Lara, but if they were, that might have left them so inclined to promise something to Lee Wood that in all likelihood they knew they wouldn't have to deliver. We'll promise you 50% of the pot. We'll promise you that if you win your fight and I win mine.
They don't actually think you're going to win your fight.
So they can promise you pretty much anything to get you to stand down and get you to step aside so they can proceed as planned with their unification match. Their unification with newly crowned WBC featherweight champion Ray Vargas. Leo Santa Cruz's PBC stablemate. They might have made that promise, but they might have made it in bad faith. They might have made that promise because they don't actually think you're going to win your fight. And if you don't win your fight, they don't have to give you anything. And then they might have to go into a fresh set of negotiations with Mauricio Lara. Mauricio, if he beats you.
And remember, he's Leo Santa Cruz's mandatory challenger, not Ray Vargas's mandatory challenger.
Ray Vargas doesn't owe you anything. He's not the one that owes you a title shot. Leo Santa Cruz is the guy that owes you a title shot, and Leo Santa Cruz and his team would be the ones making all the promises here.
Not Ray Vargas. Ray don't owe you anything.
And he doesn't owe the WBA anything either. Not yet anyways. So whatever promises were made were likely made by way of the WBA and Leo Santa Cruz.
So what if Leo loses? What then?
I'll tell you what then. Then Lee would, if he actually beats Mauricio Lara, then he becomes Ray Vargas's problem. He does. But Ray ain't the one that promised you a 50-50 split, is he? Because unless Ray promised you that, whatever agreement you reached with Leo is null and void. He would have lost his belt, and he wouldn't be the champion anymore. But you have to go into a new set of negotiations with Ray Vargas, who would be the newly crowned WBA champion.
It sounds like an empty promise. It sounds like a promise they made in haste because all they really wanted to do was get Lee Wood to step aside.
A 50-50 split sounds almost too good to be true between these two boys, especially if it's Leo's people that made that promise. Leo in that situation would be a unified champion. He's going to give half the pot to Lee Wood, or is his team only saying that because they don't actually think Lee Wood is going to win his fight? Or is his team only saying that to get him to step aside so that Leo can vacate that WBA title immediately after,
since he would be in possession of 2 alphabet titles. 2 if he wins.
The WBA title that he has held in this division for quite some time now, and the WBC title. In a situation where Leo beats Ray, not saying that he will or won't, though if he did, he would be in possession of 2 alphabet titles. And if Lee Wood is still sniffing around for a title shot, he can always forfeit one of those titles. He'll still be in possession of the other, the green belt, the WBC title.
I'll tell you what I think. I think that's an empty promise.
I think the Leo Santa Cruz people made Lee Wood empty promises. Empty promises about 50-50 splits for fights they have no intention of having. Fights they have no intention of having because they either expect Lee Wood to lose his very next fight, nullifying any agreements they made beforehand, or they expect to vacate the WBA title should they beat Ray Vargas in that upcoming unification match. I think in a nutshell, those were just empty promises, and Lee Wood and his people, they took the bait. They fell for it.
You know, most people aren't actually giving Lee Wood a shot at beating Mauricio Lara. Mauricio's a fucking animal.
Lee Wood loses that fight. Whatever agreements he had with Leo, they won't matter anymore. And finally, in men's heavyweight news, Joyce versus Joseph Parker will now be for the WBO interim heavyweight belt on September 24th, meaning that if Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk happens for undisputed and the WBO is vacated in the aftermath, then the Joyce versus Joseph Parker winner would be upgraded to full world champion. I think this comes as a surprise to no one. Joyce is ranked at number 1 by way of the WBO after all. All of this was anticipated, and I'm not anticipating that the winner of that fight, the winner of Fury versus Usyk, if and when they get that fight over the line, in the aftermath, on the heels of it, I don't expect the winner of that fight to stick around much longer, especially if the winner is Alexander Usyk. I don't actually expect to see Usyk share the ring with Joyce. I don't expect to see Usyk stick around afterwards if he actually beats Tyson Fury and becomes a 2-time undisputed champion in this era. I don't. He'll have nothing left to prove, nothing left to pursue.
He's actually beaten Joyce already in that semi-pro tournament, the World Series of Boxing.
Given everything he's accomplished so far in a short span of time, his monumental run at cruiserweight, collecting alphabet titles in hostile territory every single time, in the other fighter's backyard, in the other fighter's neck of the woods, a practice that continued well into heavyweight as he took on Anthony Joshua in his neck of the woods, where Anthony Joshua had home field advantage and won a decisive victory the first time out. It was a little bit more competitive in the rematch. Better still,
if he actually beats Tyson Fury, what the hell has he got to prove to Joyce?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, if it happens the other way and Tyson Fury wins the fight, well, I don't anticipate that Tyson Fury would stick around much longer, though perhaps a little longer than Usyk would. I anticipate that if Fury wins that Usyk fight, he might want to stick around for an Anthony Joshua showdown. That money fight, as that is the only money fight left for one such as Tyson Fury, who places no value on an Usyk fight outside of what he stands to make. He doesn't feel there's much more to add to his legacy, and he's made his feelings crystal clear. This fight is just about the money, and that's all.
That's it.
I feel like if Tyson Fury were to stick around a little while longer, at least a little longer than Usyk would, it would have to be for an Anthony Joshua fight because there's still a lot of money to be made when it comes to that fight. And by the time that Fury and Usyk enter the ring and box it out and a winner emerges, I feel like by that time Anthony might very well be back in the winner's bracket. And a fight between him and Fury, well, it makes sense. It makes a lot of money. I don't anticipate that the alphabets would try to get in the way, as they would be the direct beneficiaries of such a fight. The financial value of it, the sanctioning fees for a Fury versus Joshua fight are a lot bigger than the sanctioning fees for a Fury versus Joyce fight. So they likely wouldn't want to stand in the way if the powers that be were to get that fight over the line.
Just saying, I don't expect that Joe Joyce fights either Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk.
Not saying it's impossible. Not saying it can't happen. No, it's possible, and anything can happen. Especially in the heavyweight division, it can. But it's not what I'm expecting. It's not what I'm anticipating. And what this really heralds is what the next wave is going to look like. The next wave of titleists, the next wave of champions. Joe Joyce being one among them, as I very much like his chances against the very polite and ho-hum Joseph Parker, who's a lot younger than Joe Joyce and a lot more experienced as a professional. He's been in there with Carlos Takam, Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua, Dillian White, Derek Chisora 2 times.
He's been around the block, he has, but he lacks killer instinct.
He is a former world champion, and he has fought better fighters than the fighters that Joe Joyce has been fighting, but he lacks killer instinct. I don't trust this guy to deliver against the statuesque, physically imposing fighter who's also a volume puncher that I've seldom ever seen get tired.
I think Joe's gonna smoke him. I think Joe's gonna beat him. And the fact that it's a Frank Warren show.
If Joe don't smoke him and he don't knock him out, if it goes to the cards, you think those judges are gonna do Joseph Parker any favors when Joe Joyce is the house fighter?
Better wake up.
Wake up and smell the home cooking. Happens all the time in the sport of boxing.
We're looking at the next wave of champions. That's what we're looking at, and Joe Joyce is one among them.
Daniel Dubois could potentially be another by way of the WBA. He's their regular champion. If the winner of Usyk versus Fury retires, he may be elevated to full champion status, provided he makes it past Dillian White.
Filip Pergovic could be elevated to full IBF champion by way of the IBF. He's in position.
That's how the cookie could crumble. That's how it could all break down once these alphabet titles are redistributed and dispersed.